Does everyone recognize someone on this slide? These are famous people that are distinguished in their fields, and they all have something in common. They all had struggles in reading. They all have dyslexia. 1 in 5 people are dyslexic, so it makes it a fairly common disorder. You probably know someone who is dyslexic, but they may not even know it. I'm dyslexic, my kids are dyslexic, and since the spring of 2013, I spent hours researching about what this condition is. I attended local conferences to listen to what the experts had to say. I met with dyslexia tutors and joined some parent support groups to help me through this process. So let's explore what dyslexia is, how it's identified, and how evidence-based early intervention and appropriate accommodations are keys to success for the dyslexic student. We'll begin with learning about what dyslexia is. The Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity defines dyslexia as an unexpected difficulty in learning to read. Dyslexia takes away the ability to read quickly and automatically, as well as retrieving words, but it doesn't dampen the creativity or ingenuity of the person. Next slide. The International Dyslexia Association mentions that it is a specific learning disability that's neurobiological in origin. So simply put, the dyslexic brain is wired differently. It looks different in brain scans when processing information. In the book, Overcoming Dyslexia, Dr. Sally Shaywitz, which is a pediatric neuropsychologist for the Yale Center of Dyslexia and Creativity, says that the left side of the brain is important for skilled reading, but the dyslexic is a right side of the brain thinker, which for that reason it takes them 6 times as long to read. Next slide. I'm sorry, slide before. I wanted to mention that if you could see the non-dyslexic brain, when they're identifying and processing letter recognition, you can say they take the direct route from point A to point B, as opposed to the dyslexic brain, they take the scenic route to get from point A to point B with letter recognition. Dyslexia looks different from person to person. It could range from mild to severe. Mostly they experience difficulty with reading comprehension, writing, spelling, but it also affects their organizational skills, including time management and expressive language. For instance, they might use the word thingy because it's taking so long for them to think of the proper word that they want to use. So what do we do if you suspect dyslexia? Dyslexia can be diagnosed at any age. It can be diagnosed as early as preschool. Online screening tests can be used for warning signs. Some of the online screening tests are on the websites of Learning Ally, Dyslexic Advantage, and the Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity. If the teacher suspects dyslexia in a child, a formal evaluation is usually done through the school or privately by a neuropsychologist to confirm the diagnosis. As an adult, you could also seek private evaluation, but this could run to be fairly expensive, but I do suggest it because it'll not only indicate where your weaknesses lie, but it also will tell you what your strengths are, which is great and useful when you're choosing a career at this point in your life. Early identification is very important, and intervention as early as kindergarten is also very important. Intensive remediation usually takes years, and the student, in order for the student to reach grade level fluency by middle school, they need to start the process early. Schools have usually used the wait and see, the let's wait and see approach, which really doesn't work. It usually has them wait until they're failing by 3rd grade, and by that time the child is already, has a low self-esteem and is labeled as stupid, problem child, overactive. Some alarming consequences of no identification or intervention are 35% of high school dropouts, 70% of juvenile delinquents, and 50% of teens that are in drug rehab are dyslexic. Okay. Many challenges are faced by the dyslexic student in traditional schools. Early intervention is key so they can reach their full potential, which was said, there's a TEDx talk that's called The Truth About the Dyslexic Mind, which was really helpful. So we're ready to learn about intervention. The neuropsychologist, Dr. Samuel Orton, in the early 1920s, put together information and principles of remediation for learning difficulties. And then the psychologist Anna Gillingham compiled some teaching materials in the 1930s from Dr. Orton's findings, and this became the Orton-Gillingham approach. It's a multi-sensory system which encompasses sight and hearing and touch and movement in helping a dyslexic make the connection from letters and sounds.
I'm going to have to stop you. We're
Okay.
over 7 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.